If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe and click that bell to turn on notifications on YouTube. Leave a comment if you have feedback, and like and follow on TikTok if you enjoy this and are watching on there.
Say his name, you coward! Say his name! It's not about him! You hate yourself. He's eating you up because you ain't done a goddamn thing about it.
Oh, God damn it, God damn you. Sorry. I apologize.
What are you sorry for? First honest thing you did, Red.
It's not about him.
No.
Okay.
It's all about him. He talks to you, doesn't he? Hear his voice.
You do, don't you?
Every time I start moving, I still hear my little boy. I see him. And I hear his voice. He says, "Get him, Daddy. Every last single one of them, get him." That's why I do what I do. That's why he's eating at you.
In just 2 episodes, Born Again has turned me into a man of faith. That maybe the modern version of Disney that's too cowardly to include trans people in kid shows might actually have some backbone left somewhere deep inside between this and your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Not sure how a show where essentially every cop so far has been portrayed as dirty pieces of human garbage got approved by a company too scared to upset the new Nazi party, but you know what, give me more of this Disney. The kind that's willing to criticize America and its corrupt system, and less of the one that's totally fine with erasing trans representation, just so they don't cause a mega meltdown. At least when they pretend to give a shit about more than losing money, it allows creators to say something. Episode 4's title, Sic Semper Systema, is a play on Sic Semper Tyrannis, which you may know for its supposed use by Brutus, and being what John Wilkes Booth apparently shouted as he shot Lincoln. That or this timeless Whitest Kid You Know sketch.
I also found out that it's incredibly illegal, extremely illegal, to go on television and say something like the best place to fire a mortar launcher at the White House would be from the roof of the Rockefeller Hewitt building because of minimal security and you'd have a clear line of sight to the president's bedroom. Insanely illegal. Ridiculously, recklessly, insanely illegal. One thing that is technically legal to say is that we have a group that meets Fridays at midnight under the Brooklyn Bridge and the password is Sic Semper Tyrannis.
Translating to Thus Always to Tyrants, it's essentially a rallying call to overthrow tyrants. So, I don't think it's incorrect to interpret the episode's title, which roughly translates to Thus Always to the System, as something like any system based on oppression will tumble, which is scarily prescient, considering what we're living through. It's also appropriate that it's the episode where Frank Castle would make his official return to the MCU, since it could also be seen as somewhat of a callback to 2 things in the original show. The first being the moment in Season 2 where he exclaims Semper Fi at a fellow veteran Marine, the second being the title of that season's 7th episode, Semper Fidelis, which Semper Fi is a short form version of, meaning always faithful or always loyal. Like I said, appropriate, since this is shaping up to be a season about the corruption of symbols. Punisher's own being a prime example of that, as much as it's coming to terms with the truths behind a broken system. This is also an episode that may make me eat my words about Foggy's death scene being in service of little more than shock value. Much of episode 1 ages poorly the more I sit with it, but his death does not. Last episode it forced Matt to do his goddamn job. It also gave us a very good moment where he actually opened up about Foggy to Heather. And in this episode, it gave us a scene between Matt and Frank that rivals the absolute brilliance of their interactions in the Netflix series. The scene accomplishes so much, outside of reminding us just how perfectly cast Cox and Bernthal are as Matt and Frank. Just through dialogue and the two's performance, we watch Castle force Matt to confront what he's been faced with all series, what he's been aware of since the first season of the original show. That Matt Murdock isn't enough, that Hell's Kitchen needs its devil. That was one of the reasons Hector became the White Tiger, because the guardian devil disappeared. And now the kitchen faces threats from all sides. With the mayor who isn't all that subtle an allegory for the orange bastard, the artistic serial killer Muse, whose art, while confronting dark truths, is obviously as exploitive as the system he mocks, and the Punisher-worshipping police force. it forces Matt to truly grieve as well. Also, can we appreciate that the Punisher of all people is the first person in the series to actually call Bullseye by his supervillain name? In fact, the season's done a great job of grounding itself while also acknowledging its sillier comic book origins. We've gotten unapologetic mentions of a mystical amulet during a serious courtroom drama, and a man unironically accusing a Skrull of framing him for a crime to dodge responsibility for his own actions. As much as I love and adore the original show, I will always appreciate whenever a comic book show or movie embraces its origins and the more out there aspects of superhero comics. Now bring back Gladiator, aka Melvin Potter, give him his full costume, and give the people what they really want. Matthew Lillard as Stilt-Man. If we want to let him show off his horror chops, Zdarsky Stilt-Man. Which would probably be a CGI abomination, unfortunately. Getting back to the episode itself, I've seen that the writing and portrayal of Leroy Mancini is pretty polarizing. I personally enjoyed it, as like much of the season it's a rather in-your-face critique of the American justice system, as the whole thing is frankly absurd. It's a man who was arrested for petty larceny and is essentially having the book thrown at him for stealing caramel corn. Leroy is the definition of an imperfect victim, and I'm pretty sure that's the point. He's politically incorrect, mocking Matt for his disability, being ungrateful when the same man he's been berating talks down his sentence of over a month to only 10 days, but he's also not completely incorrect about the absurdity, hypocrisy, and power dynamics of the situation. It's hard to pin down how trustworthy Leroy is, how much he's truly trying to improve his situation, and how much of that is the system's fault, versus how much is his. But regardless of it all, he still makes valid points. So yeah, I can see why someone would feel this part of the episode, no matter how well intentioned, completely missed the mark for quite a few reasons, such as feeling too preachy or clumsily written, especially with how the music is used here. Speaking of less than amazing writing, I feel like I'm bullying Heather, but goddamn does she feel like such a nothing character. At least Leroy has actual flaws and a discernible personality, layers even. I can't, however, say the same for her. She feels so much like a plot device. I mean, what is she behind Matt's girlfriend and Fisk and Vanessa's therapist? She really is just here to be one of Muse's victims, isn't she? Also, the visuals still don't hold a candle to the Netflix series, and I don't know if it'll ever measure up to just how good that show was at its best. But what can you do when you're subject to the whims of modern Disney? It's a miracle the show is even anywhere as good as it is, to be honest. Otherwise, this is another great episode that continues to make me eat my words in regards to Daniel and BB, flesh out this new dynamic between Fisk and Vanessa, and give us wonderful character moments. It also brings us one step closer to the resurrection of Daredevil. Until next time, this is Mad Silence, signing out.